recognize the gentleman from Massachusetts, Mr. Lynch. You're now recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In face of the charges of radicalism, I just think it's important to remember that since it was decided in 1973, Roe v. Wade had been cited in more than 4,500 cases as precedent for privacy and for other rights as well, including more than 140 Supreme Court cases, more than 2,600 federal court cases, and nearly 2,000 state court cases. And for quite nearly 50 years, Roe and its progeny have stood as the law of the land, reflecting a delicately determined legal balance between the fundamental right of a woman to make a decision about her reproductive rights and health, free of unnecessary governmental interference in the legitimate interests of the state. I think it's important to note as well that Roe also affirmed and solidified the broader individual right to privacy of every American as derived from the Due Process Clause of the 14th Amendment. And indeed, according to the court, this constitutional guarantee to personal privacy includes personal rights that can be deemed fundamental or implicit in the concept of ordered liberty. Unfortunately, today we have 15 states that ban abortion. And in my mind, I cannot recall a moment in our country's history, other than prior to the Civil War, where people in this country had to flee their home state to go to another state in order to have their rights recognized. I speak, of course, of slavery, when human beings had to flee their home state in order to have their rights as human beings and as people recognized in other states that would do so. So right now we have a situation where women have to flee their state and go to another safe harbor in order to have their health needs addressed and their full rights as citizens recognized. That itself is telling. That itself is telling. What's troubling as well here is that here in Congress, congressional Republicans have introduced at least 5 bills that would ban abortion nationwide and implement a nationwide limitation based on gestational age or abortion method. Congressional Republicans have also introduced at least 4 bills targeting a person's ability to travel to obtain an abortion. So that in itself, that travel, would also be made illegal. Ms. Fry, you represent a national organization, and you have a national perspective on how this is all happening. Can you shed some light on the situation that is happening from state to state, and what impact this is having on women who happen to be, unfortunately, living in jurisdictions where the state legislature has banned abortion, and what they're dealing with?
Well, thank you, Congressman, for the question. I mean, I think the short answer is that it's been chaotic for people on the ground. And your point is well taken that this is what happens when you eliminate a fundamental right that is rooted in the Constitution, and you decide that anything goes and any state can do whatever they want. It is unsettling and unnerving for people. And it is devastating to not have access to the protections of the Constitution that they rightly deserve and that people have depended on for years. And what we are seeing across the country is, as you described, people moving from state to state to try to get basic health care and being able to make the decisions that make sense for them. And it's unacceptable. We can do better.
May I ask you, as an attorney, if the relationship between a woman and her doctor is not within that sphere of privacy, can you think of any other right that might be?
Well, I think that that's the concern, is that, clearly that relationship should be within the right to privacy, but the court recognized the right to privacy before Roe. It related to contraception. It now relates to things like access to LGBTQ rights. It is extensive. The ability for people to be able to make personal choices and decisions about themselves is critical. So this is devastating for folks.
The
Thank you,
gentlelady's
Madam
time
Chair.
has,
My time has expired. I yield back. Thank you.
the gentleman yields back, and I grant Mr. Grossman additional time, too, as they went over just a little bit.
Okay.
Thank you.
Dr.